When someone asks in online sci-fi communities, I've read Dune and I've read The Lord of the Rings, what should I read next? An inevitable answer is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Because it's so respected, I thought I'd give it a shot, but I ended up not finishing it. I made it about a third of the way into it and decided it just wasn't for me. Let me explain why. At the heart of those two other books are clear, simple objectives. Destroy Ring. Avenge murder of father. There's way more to both books, of course. But you're going to want to finish The Lord of the Rings and Dune to see how their main characters accomplish those goals. At the start of Hyperion, Dan Simmons does tell us what's at stake to an extent. We learn that a group called the Ousters are going to invade the space controlled by a political union called the Hegemony. They're going to go after a planet called Hyperion, which is the location of these things called the Time Tombs, and a being called the Shrike. And 7 people are tasked with going to Hyperion and uncovering the secrets of the Time Tombs before the Ouster invasion. So we're told quickly what has to be done, but we're not told why. I mean, yes, we know learning the secrets of the Time Tombs is important to the Hegemony, but that's not enough for me. In order for me to be invested, I'd have to know what the completion of the objective means for the main characters. In The Lord of the Rings, the main characters have to destroy the One Ring to protect their homes. In Dune, Paul has to avenge his father's murder because, well, that's just what you do. In Hyperion, what's going to happen if the Ousters invade the Hegemony? In The Lord of the Rings, we start off with a charming birthday party, and we know that if Sauron has his way, all of that's going to go away. The Ousters are described as interstellar barbarians, but I don't know what their grand scheme is. Maybe they're like the Mongols. The Mongols could be brutal, but I think in general, if you acknowledged their rule and paid tribute to them, I think they let you do whatever you wanted. When I was reading Hyperion, I didn't get the sense that the 7 hegemony agents had a strong connection to the hegemony. Protecting the hegemony is, I think, a secondary motivation for all of them. At the start of the book, Dan Simmons keeps us in the dark regarding their primary motivations and their connections to the Time Tombs and the Shrike, and that's fine. I understand the promise of the revelation of what those motivations and those connections are is what's supposed to draw the reader through the book. But naturally, well, I guess I shouldn't say naturally, for me, it's going to be harder to latch onto a book where the main character's reasons for doing what they're doing is kept a mystery than a book where both the what and the why are revealed relatively quickly. I abandoned the book towards the end of Kassad's story, right when he meets the Shrike. By that time, I realized I just didn't care anymore. I'll admit that maybe I couldn't finish Hyperion because of my failings as a reader, because of my lack of patience, and maybe my imagination's too weak. I keep comparing Hyperion to Dune and The Lord of the Rings, but before I read Dune, I saw the David Lynch movie, and before I read The Lord of the Rings, I saw the Peter Jackson movies. I didn't have a film adaptation to use as a crutch for my imagination when I read Hyperion, so that could be a part of why reading it was more of a challenge than reading those other books. Also, it could be I came to Hyperion at the wrong time. You're not going to believe this, but I didn't like the first Terminator when I first saw it back in high school. I remember telling a friend something like, it's just a series of car chases, but I watched it again a few years later, and I really liked it. And I saw it again just a couple weeks ago, and now it's a 5 out of 5 movie for me. And I'm thinking, what was wrong with past me? Maybe someday I'll come back to Hyperion and think the same thing. I would like to give it another shot just because I'm a sci-fi fan, and it's important to the genre. You know, I read Stranger in a Strange Land and Ender's Game even though I thought I wouldn't really like them, and I ended up not liking them. But I'm glad I read them because they're held in high regard by other sci-fi readers, and I get to be a part of the conversation when they come up. So that's why I didn't finish Hyperion. Are you in the same boat, or did you love Hyperion? I'd especially like to hear from people who love Hyperion and hate Dune. By the way, any feedback at all would be appreciated. I'm planning to make more book reviews, so I'd like to hear how I could improve. And I promise most of the videos on this channel will be about books I finished. If there are any you'd like me to review, feel free to suggest them. Before I end this video, I think I should mention that I had been planning throughout this week to make and upload this video this weekend. The fact that Dan Simmons passed away on Friday, the 27th of February, was a crazy coincidence. So please don't assume that I saw in the news that a famous writer died and thought to myself, I should make a video about how I couldn't get into his most famous work. R.I.P. Dan Simmons. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a nice day.